Joined. 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 Joined.
Reese, Aiden, could you wash the dishes, please? There's just a couple pots.
Left. Joined.
I apologize, Trustee Galindo. I'm just going to do a quick roll call to see who we have with us. So, Trustee Bingham, are you present?
I'm present.
Thank you. Trustee Buck?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Deep?
Present.
Thank you. Vice Chair Galindo?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Johnstone?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Miller?
Present, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Mulholland? Don't believe Trustee Mulholland's with us. Trustee Miller has sent regrets for the second half of this meeting. Trustee Tutt?
Present.
Thank you. And also note Trustee Edgar had sent regrets earlier. I'm not sure if our student trustees have joined back in. I'll just check. Student Trustee Mahmood?
Present.
Thank you. Student Trustee Adele Hafiz?
Present.
Thank you. And Sigawana Galverdat KG. I'm going to have to get that right. Sorry. I'm just checking. Sigawana Galverdat KG. Okay, thank you. So moving to item 9, reports from the committee of the whole. I'll turn that over to the Vice Chair.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm bringing forward the committee report from Committee of the Whole from private session tonight. On that recommendation, September 13, 2021, that the committee report be received, noting that trustees have considered proposed breaches of the Code of Conduct. Trustees have determined recommendations for breaches of the Code of Conduct and recommendations for subsequent sanctions to be brought before the board in public session. The Board of Trustees confirm the conclusions of an Integrity Commissioner report that in correspondence to the board, Trustee Paikin-Miller breached Code of Conduct specifically to maintaining the integrity and dignity of the office.
Joined.
To trustees, as elected officials of the board, must uphold the dignity of the office and conduct themselves in a professional manner, especially when attending board events or while on board property, and shall at all times act with decorum and be respectful of other trustees, staff, students, and the public. 3, trustees shall ensure their comments are issue-based and not personal, demeaning, or disparaging with regard to board, staff, or fellow board members. Civil behavior. 9, when expressing individual views, trustees shall respect the differing point of view of other trustees, staff, students, and the public. Respect for confidentiality. 12, trustees shall not divulge confidential information, including personal information about an identifiable individual or information subject to solicitor-client privilege that a trustee becomes aware of because of his or her position, except where required by law or authorized by the board to do so. With regards to upholding decisions, 14 trustees shall uphold the implementation of any board resolution after it is passed by the board. At this time, I'll turn to you, Chair, for a vote on those breaches of the Code of Conduct.
Thank you. So you're moving the report and the action items within it?
That's correct.
Thank you. And I'll need a seconder. I'll turn to Trustee Tutt, if you don't mind seconding that, and we'll open it up. So you're the mover by virtue of being the Vice Chair, Trustee Galindo. If you did want to comment first as the mover, you're welcome to do so.
Thank you. I don't think there's much that can be commented, seeing as how this discussion took place in private session, but perhaps I'll add that as a board, I think it's important that we take matters of breaches to the Code of Conduct seriously, and I think tonight's discussion and meeting is a representation of that. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Trustee Tutt, as a seconder?
I'm happy to second it, Madam Chair. I think Trustee Galindo captured what I intended to say perfectly. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just go through the roll call list. I'm going to go in reverse order since I'm already at Trustee Tutt. Trustee Miller, any comments or questions?
I will not comment. I will say that I'm in full support of the board's decision this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Johnston?
I'm in full support of I guess the recommendations and sanctions that are being brought forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Dees?
I'm in full support as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Buck?
I'm in full support.
Thank you. Trustee Bingham?
I'm in full support as well.
Thank you. And our student trustees, you weren't in the committee as a whole, but you are able to vote on this item. Student trustee Abdel Hafiz, did you have any comments? You can't really answer many questions, unfortunately.
Thank you. And through the chair, I don't have any comments. However, I am in full support.
Thank you. And student trustee Mahmoud, any comments?
No comments from me either. Thank you.
Thank you. And so I appreciate that we always have these challenges when there's something that's in camera, but important that we are talking about it publicly to the extent that we're able. Essentially what we have here is behavior that we feel breached the Code of Conduct, and that was also established through an Integrity Commissioner. We will be releasing the Integrity Commissioner's report, but due to the nature of some of the topics in it, it will need to be reviewed before it's released publicly. So there will be further information to come, and we will, of course, be publishing a letter of censure with support of the board once we've voted, so that will be also public. So if we have no further comments, I will just go to a negative vote. Is anyone opposed to the approving the report with the recommended action? Hearing none, that passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Further to the report of Committee of the Whole private session, and based on the breaches that the board has just voted on to the Code of Conduct, the following sanctions are recommended. A, that the trustee issue a formal letter of censure of the trustee as an official reprimand. B, requesting a formal apology to Trustee Miller Board of Trustees and HWDSB students and staff, specifically for behavior unbecoming of a trustee and the cost incurred by the board for the investigation. C, barring the trustee from sitting on all committees of the board until the end of the trustee elected term, which is November 30th, 2022. On that note, I'll turn the mic back to you, Chair, for a vote on this recommendation that I am moving.
Thank you. And I'll just quickly go through roll call again to see if there are any comments. Trustee Galindo, did you want to comment first?
I'll echo the comments I made earlier, but I won't be adding any additional comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go in alphabetical order this time. Trustee Bingham, anything further?
No comment.
Thank you. Trustee Buck?
Nothing for now.
Trustee Dees?
No comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Johnstone?
No further comments.
Thank you. Trustee Miller?
No comments. Thank you.
Trustee Tutt?
I'll only add that I'm in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Student Trustee Mahmood?
No comments. Thank you.
And Student Trustee Adele Hafiz?
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you, and I will just echo my support, and I hope that there's an opportunity to discuss our code of conduct and how trustees can govern themselves as a board through our governance committee, and possible opportunities to advocate to the ministry for additional mechanisms that may be helpful in board governance. But I think we can certainly bring that up at governance, and for tonight I'll just go to a negative vote to the motion or to the recommended actions for sanctions. Oh, and I just will do a quick check. Is Sigawana Galvadat Kagiri here? I know we heard somebody that came on or off the line. Don't believe she's with us. So just going to a negative vote. Is anyone opposed? Hearing none, that passes. Thank you. Next, we have item 10, which is a report from myself, Chair of the Board, regarding trustee sanctions. So this is an update, and I apologize you don't have a report before you for this. I just wanted to provide an update on sanctions from the spring and steps that we have taken to monitor progression with those sanctions. So we have two trustees that had sanctions against them. Trustee Johnstone had a number of sanctions, all of which have been met with the exception of additional training that is currently being scheduled for this fall, but I'll just go through those. So a formal letter of censure was completed March 24th. A formal apology was completed March 4th during special board. As I mentioned, the additional training on equity governance and anti-racism is scheduled for this fall, or getting in the process of being scheduled. And the trustee is not holding any position of chair on committees until initial board, so that was completed as she resigned as chair of finance and facilities. We do thank Trustee Johnstone for the efforts that she's made to fulfill the sanctions and acknowledge that they have all been completed with the professional development pending. The second follow-up is for Trustee Paikin Miller. Just need to open that document. One second. Sorry, one moment, I've lost track of my document. For Trustee Paikin Miller, again, we issued a letter of follow-up in June and requested a response. So there were a number of sanctions, and at the moment, the sanctions that have not been completed, so one, we had requested a formal apology, And 2, we had requested that the trustee resign so that the board can uphold the integrity and dignity of the office. So we did request a formal response by July and to get an update on whether the trustee would be fulfilling these sanctions. We received a response that would not be happening. Outstanding right now is additional training in equity, governance, and anti-racism, and that is being scheduled for this fall and will be offered to the trustee. And we are in progress for the sanction that bars the trustee from sitting on trustee committees. So I just wanted to provide an update to trustees, to the board, and to the public on sanctions so that everyone is aware that we are following them and following up on them. We do have a timeline for Trustee Paikin-Miller's sanctions, so we have until the initial board in December for the outstanding sanctions to be fulfilled. So at this time, there isn't further action required by trustees. This is just an update, but we will continue to monitor the situation. I'll just turn to trustees to see if there are any questions. No action is required, so I'm just going to open it up. If anyone would like to ask a question, if you can unmute yourself and identify yourself. Hearing none, we'll move on to item 11, which is oral reports from liaison committees. The first is item A is the City School Board Liaison Committee. That committee has not met, so there is not an update at this time. Item B is the Hamilton Wentworth Home and School Association. I'll turn it over to Vice Chair Galindo to bring the report.
Thank you. Through the chair, let's see. Yes, I am. It's my pleasure, of course, to bring forward the report from the Home and School Association. The first one of the start of the school year. Their first meeting of the year was last Thursday. They had a good turnout with the majority of their associations in attendance. The local school associations are trying their best to support their schools, families, despite the difficulties they're facing with not having access to most buildings. Their next meeting will be on Thursday, October 14th via Zoom. And of course, they shared a letter with us based on a discussion from last week's meeting that they had in support of the enhanced COVID-19 measures, the motion that we discussed earlier today. And I shared that letter with trustees, so you may reference that if you'd like. But aside from that, there are no other updates other than, like I mentioned earlier, the meeting is October 14th next month via Zoom if anyone is interested in attending. And just on a personal, I do want to thank the work of the association for not only advocating on behalf of parents and students, but for all the work that they're doing to really support a lot of the COVID-19 measures and supporting families in their schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Galindo. And I know I've always enjoyed attending the meetings, and we do really value the work that our parents and volunteers do in our schools. But the Home and School Association certainly has taken, it has an important role, and I know they're eager to be back supporting our students in schools. I'll just turn it and open it for questions. If you have a question, can you unmute yourself or comment and identify if you'd like to speak?
Chair, I think at this time, too, maybe I'll pass a motion to extend the meeting by 15 minutes, or propose a motion.
So we have a motion to extend the meeting because we're almost at 10 o'clock. Thank you.
Left.
Vice Chair Galindo. And seconder, if I could assign Trustee Bingham to second that. Is anyone opposed to extending the meeting? Okay, so that's for 15 minutes. Thank you. So just any questions on the Hamilton Wentworth Home and School Association? Hearing none, we'll go to item C, which is the Hamilton Foundation for Student Success. Turning to Trustee Buck for that report.
Thank you very much, Chair Danko. The Foundation Board of Directors hasn't met since the last provided update, but our next meeting is scheduled for October 13th. Nothing else to add for now.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Trustee Buck? Hearing none, item D is our Ontario Public School Board Association OPSBA report. Trustee Johnstone.
Thank you. Through the chair, OPSBA policy work, program work meeting. Work team met this past Friday, and then we were joined by the policy work team as well. I'm a member to that team. So some of the items that were discussed was online learning and COVID. I cannot share the full results of that report just yet because we still remain confidential. However, there was quite a large survey done with students from across Ontario between the grades 5 and 12. What I will say is that the findings were not necessarily too surprising in terms of many of the concerns that were raised to trustees and to school boards across the province throughout online learning. However, it does provide an in-depth look. It also captures, I would say, details around what was working, what wasn't working, where boards could invest. I think that this information will become quite informative as we move forward, certainly as we have mandated online learning now through the province as a result of, I guess that happened this term. So I think that this will provide some useful information there. And I believe will be reviewed at our Board of Directors meeting. Our next Board of Directors meeting is on September 25th. I guess in other legislative updates, there's been 2 memos from the ministry that are relating to school boards. Those were highlighted tonight by Superintendent Jamie Nunn. So that was the mandatory immunization disclosure policy with regards to rapid antigen testing update, as well as instructions issued by the Office of the Chief Medical Officer of Health. I guess another note would be that there's a federal election taking place on September 20th. Advanced polls actually closed today. As well, the deadline for a mathematics proficiency test is this December 31st, 2021. Most of the testing is expected to be completed by the beginning of December. That is the window period. However, staff can become compliant as of December 31st. And that concludes my report so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Johnstone. Again, I'll turn it and open things up. Are there any questions regarding the OPSPA report? I'm just going to ask you to unmute yourself and identify if you have a question. Hearing none, I am now going to item 12, looking for a motion to adjourn. If I could have that moved by Trustee Deeth, seconded by Trustee Buck. Is anyone opposed? Okay, thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
Left.
Trustee Bill.
Left. 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 Left.
Don, thanks.
Left.
HWDSB.
Left. 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 Left.
Manny and Heather.